Good afternoon, friends. I'm Abhishek Rungta from Indus Technologies. I have been running this business for 21 years, and I decided to do this very interesting webinar on this very interesting topic, which is creating a learning organization in the distracted digital age. Because I foresee and experience this as one of the biggest challenge and one of the primary stumbling block in building a organization in the the learning age that we are in today, where because today it's not about you know what you do. It's all about what level of knowledge you can gather in organization and how you can disseminate it and how people, all of us, can contribute to the overall learning of the organization. That's why I'm calling it a learning organization where everybody is learning and everybody is contributing, so that everyone else in the organization can also learn from them and continue to grow. So the whole idea is, in today's world, the average of the organization has to keep improving. We cannot just have what we have, because the rules of the game is changing every day. So how are we able to adapt to it all depends upon how well we are able to create a learning organization. What we'll do is we'll do a 35-40 minutes deliberation. I will kind of do almost a monologue, and then we will open it up for question answers. Feel free to put your questions in the system, and after I have completed my presentation, we will take up those questions, and I'll try to answer as many as I can. So let's get started then. So one of the saying that Adam Hochschild have said is, work is hard and the distractions are plentiful and time is short. And I think this is so true in today's context, where obviously competition is increasing day and every day, and we have so much distraction, especially because of the digital gadgets and tools that we have around us. Even before you start gathering notes on this presentation, you might have a phone call that comes and disturb you if you are attending this presentation on a mobile phone, and you are distracted and you lose a lot of effort that you've already put in for last few minutes, or the effort that you want to put in the next few minutes, and you might be totally distracted out of it and you might jump onto something else. So unfortunately, learning has become much more complicated in this time, because the time is short, because change is happening so fast. The time is very short. You have to learn things, you have to adapt to things, and you have to react and master things very, very quickly to even remain relevant, right? This learning organization, to make a learning organization, is very, very relevant in today's time. So you need to reset. So you need to reset your mind to start seeing that what are your priorities and how would you set yourself up for learning. How would you get the distractions out of the way to get yourself in a learning mode? And similarly, how would you do the same thing for your organization at large? Because if you are not able to do it for the organization, even if people have desire, even if people have intent, unfortunately they won't be able to learn and contribute. So I think there is a big important aspect, even before we learn how to create a learning organization, is to reset people's mindset, so that they understand what is expected of them and why do they need to be a part of the learning cycle that the organization is setting up for them. So 96% of the respondents agreed that an organization's capacity for learning can be a source of competitive advantage. And I'm just surprised why it's not 100%. I think possibly because obviously there will be few people who will agree to disagree, which is absolutely fine. The whole point is that in a knowledge economy, it's all about who has all the knowledge and who has all the information and the insights from the knowledge, and how this knowledge is used for either their business or their client's business. And any company who can do it right can obviously grow multi-folds and can come up much stronger to their competition. So it's not a big surprise, but I wanted to let you know this is what's happening, so that you understand the reason why we are focusing so much on creating a learning organization. So digital has made business environment very fast. It has made it extremely distributed, and it has also made it collaborative. So as we understand that, when you think now, you can communicate faster, you can reach out to new people faster, you can make new connections faster because of the social networks and so on. However, we are also very distributed, because since we can work in a remote locations, because we are all connected through the digital channel, we can actually run in an extremely distributed environment. And since we can work in a distributed environment, a lot of people decide to work in a distributed environment. Therefore, the traditional method of just running a classroom training, the way it used to be run, where someone will stand in front of a bunch of people and he will run through certain slides in a classroom and expect the team members to learn that subject and apply it next day, I think that has is not as effective as it used to be. And also, the whole process has become far more collaborative. So can we use the power of internet, can we use the power of digital to kind of make our learning more collaborative? So it's not that it's one person to many people. I think it's many to many is what's going to work in future. So what is the solution? So what I think we need to do is, basically, organizations need to create environments and foster continuous learning, right? So organization cannot just say that, we are going to provide you a training on subject A, B, and C, because by the time they provide training on subject A, B, and C, the subjects may be outdated or they may be out of context, and therefore the organization has to again go on subject E, F, and G, and by the time they do that, again, some of them may be outdated by that time. So a model where an organization does a structured learning system, which is, a linear model of education or training within the team, I think it's not working anymore. And we see more and more of it as a software company. When we try to do this, we found that the effectiveness of this is continuously on a downward spiral. So what we can do here, actually have to create the environment. This means that people have to feel that they have to learn, they have to understand they have to learn, they have to know what they have to learn. And then we have to create an environment, means we have to create levers, we have to facilitate, and we have to help people learn, not actually go and teach them. Because every people need to learn different subjects, and they have to master those different subjects to come together and play a role in today's knowledge economy. So you don't need robots, you don't need 1,000 people knowing a single subject and continuously repeat that subject, in their work day in and day out, because that kind of work will eventually go out due to automation and the way things are moving in artificial intelligence. So you need people who have different perspectives, you need people who have different experiences in life and who are learning different things in different environments. So you have to overall create that environment. So when I say environment, is that, does a person feel like learning? Does a people know why he should learn? Does a person know what he should learn? Does he have enough resources to learn? Is he also sharing his knowledge with his team members? Is he able to learn on the job? Is he able to share what he has learned in a virtual environment, which is non-real time? Because a lot of people are distributed and they might be in different time zones. They may not be able to learn at the same time, right? So how can he create content? How can he help other people who are facing similar problems? How can we create a knowledge base and repository? So once a company start looking at these enablers, we create an environment where we are enabling people to learn. Plus, how is the company's culture formed? Is the company's culture around learning? Does the company reward people to learn? Or does the company say that, okay, learning is just one small part, it's a tick in the box, and if you just do this, okay, we will use it for your appraisal? Or the company say, we would really like to see what you have learned, and we would like to reward you by giving you a different role altogether, and we will also recognize your learning inside the organization. So until and unless this kind of environment is created, which is easier said than done, we are not fostering continuous learning within the company. So moving on to this, as I said, saying that we should do continuous learning and we should foster that environment, it's very easy to say that, but how do we exactly go about doing that? So obviously nobody has a perfect answer for this. Everybody is trying, because things are changing so fast. So lots of companies are doing different types of experiments. We have also done some experiments. I have seen some experiments and would like to share some ideas about, how we might be able to do something like this. So we have to kind of fix both our hardware and software. So when I say hardware, by hardware I mean the processes of organization which are visible, right? The systems, the policies, how we create that, right? And how do we enable design thinking? How do we enable lean thinking? So are people still thinking that there is a very big training department and they will conduct a training and they will send me notification for a training and I will come and learn that subject? Or they are understanding that they have a lack of a particular piece of knowledge in their entire set of skill set that they need to do a given job, and the company has enabled that learning process either from internal sources or external sources in real time, and he can learn that subject, and he can also contribute his knowledge whatever he's gathering in a more distributed environment within the company. Or so this is what we call the hardware. So this is basically around the policies and the structure that the company provide a person to work within it. Then the software part, which is behavior and culture. So software is something like where people know that they will be rewarded for a certain activity, and people know that this is the culture, this is the way we do things here, and we are supposed to do it here. Now this becomes, so the software part is far more difficult. A lot of companies are able to do the hardware, but when it comes to software, the challenge here becomes the motivation. A lot of times the motivation takes a person to spend a lot more time on social media. They end up spending a lot more time chatting with their friends, or browsing site X or Y or Z, or at a lot of times they just keep searching for the right information. So the providing the right information in the right way is the hardware, but providing the motivation to learn instead of wasting time on other time wasting activities, like social media and mobile phone and useless calls, is the software. So it becomes important how the motivation is driven within the organization. What do you do to make people feel that if you learn something and maybe take a session with other people within the organization, and you can be promoted for that? So how many companies look at doing such things? If you do not promote people, or if you do not reward people for doing such things, it's very difficult to drive that behavior. So try to think of what are the hardware components that you are going to fix, which are visible, which are clearly documented, which are seen. And second is the software, which is a software behavioral pattern. How do you kind of speak to people? How do you motivate people internally in the organization to look at improving that? So one is, leadership should be everyone's job, right? Leadership should be distributed. We cannot just say that to achieve a goal, or to look at to set a goal is just one person's goal, right? So obviously any organization has a top leadership which sets the organizational goal, but to fill that to achieve that organizational goal, every person who is working with the leader, he himself is a leader for the team which works with him, right? How can he convert that goal into his sub goal? And that sub goal level understanding and education needs to be imparted to the team, and the leader has to start thinking that what kind of knowledge, what kind of skill that my team need to have, and how can I get this knowledge, and how can I create the hardware for this knowledge for my team. Unless this leader thinks about how can he create the hardware for this team, the team is not going to have the access to that information. And when you don't have the hardware, the software won't work. So software can only work, the motivation can only work once the framework is available. And when I say leadership is everybody's job, this means that for every function, whoever is the leader, he needs to create this learning structure below him. It's his job is not only that function, but his job is also to create the capability and the structure for other people within his team to learn the skill set and gain the knowledge that is required to fulfill their jobs. So very important for him to understand what are the skill set that the team needs, what are the attitude that the team needs, how the team should behave, and what is the information they need to provide them to make them behave in the given way that you are you are expecting from your team members. And of course, make it less top to down, because this means that they need to also start looking at, so obviously there is a top down approach and there is a bottom up approach. So top down is something which is very well known, which has to be done. Without doing that, nothing moves. But the second important part is to make it bottom up. This means let's ask each and every individual that what they need to make their job better, to let them do their job better. How can we help them in achieving their goals? What are their learning gaps? What is the learning gap in a given scenario? So are we collecting this feedback on a regular basis? This is very, very critical. And this all information should be as important as performance management, information to with the top leadership. So on one side, you are managing the performance, but on the other side, you also have to manage the knowledge, and you have to also manage the learning, because without that, you won't get the performance. Step two is encourage new ideas to be shared and tested at all levels of the organization. A lot of times we are not allowing people to share their ideas. We are not allowing people to come up and talk about what they think. I think knowledge is across the organization. Everybody has got intellect to think. It's about us who have to give them the ability to put their thoughts into words, and also give them the power and authority that they can always sound their mind out. Once people start talking about this, there's a lot of knowledge which is imbibed in each person's mind. Once that knowledge comes out, I think there is a huge amount of knowledge that can be redistributed within the group. So until and unless we bring that knowledge out in open, we cannot do any redistribution. So a lot of times we are looking for ideas, concepts, thoughts, and knowledge outside our group, whereas there's a lot which is available within the group. So until and unless we encourage these new ideas to be shared, things don't start moving. And when there is a knowledge and idea within the group, people are far more interested in sharing it and learning from it, because they see their peers as equals, and they are far more motivated to learn from equals, especially things which they know and which their counterparts know and they are unaware of. They may not express that they were not aware of it, and therefore these learnings are generally done in a lot of interesting thought sharing sessions or workshops, where we are not trying to again get into a faculty and the student mode, but a round robin discussion, where some people who may have absolutely no idea about that subject might keep silent to kind of not show that they don't know the subject, but they are always absorbing, because for them it's a revelation that they don't know the subject. And when the other peers of his team or other members from other teams are talking about that subject, he finds it a very interesting learning experience. Moving to step 3, hire people who are go-getters. Of course, whatever we are talking about, you cannot achieve this by hiring people who are passive. You need to get people who are active, who really want to learn, who want to move up in their life. So I have a very controversial saying that experience is a liability, right? Because a lot of times people gain experience and they think that they have achieved what they want to achieve and they know the subject, whereas the subject is changing every day. I mean, as it's a very famous saying that goes that the same person never walks in the same river. So the river is changing, the person is changing, and an intelligent guy is one who understands that everything that was there yesterday has changed, and therefore his knowledge and his experience that was yesterday is only valuable if he can contextualize it in today's problems and challenges. So unfortunately, this is an attitude which is not very easily found. I think this is one attitude which you either need to find in the person you are hiring, or you need to imbibe this attitude in the person, right? And there is no other option apart from mentoring to do this. You just cannot run a training course and people will learn how to think in these lines. You have to use examples, you have to use stories, and you have to spend a lot of time to change the overall attitude and culture. And this culture, what we call is a learning culture, is a culture of humility. And this has to be brought in when a person learns that, whatever his experience is, it was great for the day when he had it, but today it means a lot less than what he thinks. Apart from this, you also need to look at higher diversified individuals, right? Because so that they come from different backgrounds, different experiences, different industries, so that all the knowledge from these industries and these experiences come in one pool. A lot of times we again just see that people try to hire people from the same kind of set. In fact, at times we see, hundreds of students have been hired just from one single college to fulfill the recruitment targets. It's great if you just want to build a company with loads of people, but at the end of the day, you are just hiring robots. And when the real robot economy comes in, or the real automation economy comes in, you have absolutely no plan. How do you handle this whole bunch of people that you have hired? So I think it's very, very critical that we hire diverse individuals who brings different point of views, who brings different set of knowledge, and who are able to work together and learn together. The fourth idea is about promoting feedback and iteration to develop the new ways of working. So continuously, I think a company need to ask its team about giving a feedback on the way it's working, about a feedback about the way they are learning and the knowledge gaps that we have. Because a lot of time people, when they face a knowledge gap, they somehow scrap through that. They might do a little bit of a research on Google. They might ask a couple of colleagues and move on and just do the job. But at times we don't even know what are the normal knowledge gaps that exist in the team. I think it's very, very critical to promote feedback so that we know what is happening, promote feedback after a project, promote feedback after any incident that has happened, so that the knowledge comes in, and that knowledge is then packaged and fed back into the team, so that there is no knowledge gap that let a team do a poor job at any point of time. So we have to fundamentally think the organization's performance management system, right? It has to be more collaborative, more risk tolerant and experimental, because when we talk about this feedback, a lot of time this feedback is about one's own weakness, and people are very, very reluctant to share that. And until unless the company is risk tolerant and the company is experimental, people will not come up with the feedback, and they will not discuss about this with their team, or their senior management, or their or the people who are involved in making it a more learning organization. So yes, so a lot of feedback has to be promoted, and as I earlier said, learning has to be made a part of the performance management, right? It is not something which is a separate entity in the organization. So learning should become something which is essential to assess, manage, and improve performance of an individual. So a lot of times we have seen that in HR functions, people make separate learning and development department and a separate performance management department. I think this kind of reduces it into a small activity, and the moment it becomes an activity, it becomes commoditized. And in today's world, with the pace of change, we cannot run a business with a commoditized learning model. So I think we need to rethink about how we actually look at the org structure of HR. So step number 5, I would say, is challenge people. I think people should be given enough resources, they should be facilitated, and they should be made accountable. So I think this is the best way of learning, because what we call is, they are kind of interning within the company. They are learning within the company by doing things. The best way to learn is to let them go out and do things. So encourage them to do encourage them to do projects, encourage them to take initiatives, facilitate them with that, and make them accountable. So if they are accountable, they will at least make lesser mistakes. They will only make mistakes that those are legitimate mistakes, right? They will not cause negligence. And that is why I say that make them accountable. By saying making them accountable, I don't mean that you punish them if they have failed or if they have not been able to do that job. But I think at the end of the day, they should know that they are accountable for making known mistakes. They are accountable for negligence, but company is absolutely tolerant in terms of letting them experiment and learn. And I think that kind of a buffer the company always need to carry. So if it's a client project, obviously there needs to be a buffer in which a person is working. So if he makes a mistake, it can be fixed without impacting the client. Or even within the organization should have that tolerance that, okay, if this person is trying to do a marketing experiment and he wastes X amount of money, we are okay with that. And because until unless you do that, you are not able to train and grow good people within the team. Right. So few days back I heard someone talking about LMS. Okay, LMS is great, but unfortunately now we have a lot of new tools which are available, right, beyond LMS, and I think we should start looking at that. Start creating curated content, start creating small-sized content, start focusing on video, start focusing on bite-sized micro learning, so that people are getting small interesting ideas. And if you can make these ideas and learning contextual, nothing better than that. Make sure that you have portal where people can put their problems and other people in the organization can help them solve it. And then how can you harness that knowledge and create a knowledge library out of it, which is searchable, which is useful, and which is reusable, right? So at the end of the day, people do not want to go through a long course material. They want to learn on the job. When they have to learn on the job, they want to find solutions to problems that they are facing when they are doing the job, right? So instead of the older method of kind of a waterfall, if I want to draw a parallel, earlier we used to do a waterfall model of learning where you learn chapter 1, chapter 2, then chapter 3 and 4. In today's world, I think people are more interested in solving a problem, and while doing in kind of a scrum, the learning process has also gone into a scrum mode where they want to kind of do a particular piece of job, and they will like to learn everything that they need to learn to do that piece of job. So how can we facilitate in a contextual way of that learning so that he can get the piece of job done, and then he digests that learning and maybe reuse that knowledge or share that knowledge within his team. So there are lots of interesting tools. So I have seen a product like Teachable. Then you have got, you can create your own video library using Vimeo. You can create your own app which pushes interesting knowledge and information from time to time. So learning has to be taken, and obviously you should have your own forum. You should have your own collaborative platform where people can brainstorm, put ideas, and and help each other. So I think learning will be now a more interactive model between peers, rather than you bring in specialized faculty who trains you and then you are asked to go and perform a particular job. Right. So I think companies need to now see that the CEOs also become the chief learning officers, because learning again is just not a HR responsibility. You have to ensure that the entire learning experience of an employee is outstanding. If your company is bringing out people who are great performers because they have learned very well, it also increases the attraction level of your company among other employees who are looking for the right opportunities in the market. So it also inspires people to reinvent themselves. You never know, a person might join you for a role X and end up in a role which is totally different from that, because while he learns, he discovers himself, and I think he go deep into his own psyche and understands what he's best at. And when he discovers what he's best at, I think his contribution is highest. So in the age of digital experience, in this age of digital experience can be a liability. Why I am saying can is depends upon how do you use the experience. So democratize knowledge, democratize understanding, learning, digitize it, and use it to disrupt the overall learning pattern within your industry, within your company, and make sure that the team is able to continuously learn, continuously contribute while in real time, while they are actually doing the job. So learning is not a separate activity, from the real job and from the real performance management. So yes, so this is what I wanted to present. These are some thoughts that I put in. More than happy to have some of your questions, and then maybe able to answer some of them and see how can I help you to navigate some of the challenges that we have ourselves navigated and solved at one point of time or other. So please feel free to post your questions, and I'll be happy to answer them. Hi Nathan, thank you so much for your lovely comment. I'm glad that you are here, and I hope you are able to resonate with some of our thoughts that we have shared here, and you feel that you feel in similar lines. If not, more than happy to have your thoughts. Do we have any other particular question that anyone wants to ask? Please post it in the question section, and I'll be more than happy to answer that. And if there is no question, maybe we can call it a day. And the presentation will be available. The video recording will also be available. Yes, I think I have a question. This question is from Will Pollard. Thank you, Will, for putting this question out. Your question is, how can the organization change policy? Learning as a system. So I think, see, policy is a mean to achieve the goal. Policy is not the goal. A lot of times organizations are very stubborn about the policy that they have made. I think they have to make it a little flexible, where people can come and tell them, based on all the learnings that they are having, that what exactly they should be doing to kind of grow the business. And there should be a healthy debate. So people should be able to come and ask, debate, and the policy is a continuous living document. It is not something that is set in stone. Unfortunately, for very large organizations, they've set the policy in stone, and that is where they literally become the big elephants and are unable to change, and eventually meet very bad fate at the end of the day. So I think organizations need to be very flexible in their HR policy, and put learning as a system. As I said, learning should be as a system, as a part of uh, management's top priority. It should be a performance manager's job. It should be the line manager's job, and also the performance appraisal system, as well as a person's contribution to the organization, should be recognized and measured in context of the learning that he has had done and has also contributed back to the organization. Because every person is a learner and every person is a trainer. I hope I have been able to answer it to your satisfaction. So we'll wait for 30 seconds for any other question. If it comes, we'll take that. Okay, so when would you have a similar session next? It's nice, but I want to attend more sessions, simply and easy to understand. Okay, thank you so much, Faizan. I'll try to do more of such sessions. We are trying to create a learning mechanism where we also spread the learning from within the organization to the outside world. So obviously, it's not very easy for us to take out time because this is something that we are doing for external world, but we will definitely try to do more and more of it. So hopefully you will at least have one such session in a month, but I can't promise anything. Thank you, Will. Thank you, Nathan. So, right, guys, it was a wonderful session. Great time with all of you. And feel free to download the video if you want to. If you have any other question, feel free to post it to me. If I find time, I'll definitely try to answer that. It might be late, but you will definitely get an answer. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Bye bye.